left for one weekend. One. I went to visit my brother upstate, fished a little, played cards, didn't look at my phone once. When I came back, Sunday evening, I nearly drove my truck straight into a brand new metal fence. It wasn't just a fence, it was a wall. Fresh steel posts, chain link reinforced, clean lines like it had been planned with military precision. It ran straight through the edge of my ranch, separating my north pasture from the western trail like someone had drawn a line across a map and said, "This is ours now." There was a single gate, padlocked, bolted, gleaming in the sunset like it knew it had power. And taped to it, a laminated letter with the HOA logo. As part of our community safety initiative, a secure barrier has been installed around the recreational trail to protect it from unauthorized use. We appreciate your cooperation in respecting the boundary. For access requests, please contact the HOA board. I stared at the gate. Then I stared at the fence. Then I stared at Ellie, my ranch dog, who just tilted her head like, "Why are they dumb?" That was the moment I knew two things. The HOA had gone too far. I was going to make them regret every inch of that fence. Let's rewind a bit. I live on a 30-acre ranch just on the edge of what used to be a sleepy community. Then the HOA came in, slick developers, cookie-cutter homes, and a whole lot of people who think rural is a design aesthetic, not a way of life. For a while, we coexisted. Then came the complaints. Too many dogs barky, tractor noise, a rooster, disturbing morning harmony. And eventually, the war over the trail. See, a sliver of the HOA's walking trail skirts my land. Not on it, but right beside it. And sometimes people wandered, took selfies with my goats, let their kids chase Ellie. I put up signs, they ignored them. Then they complained to the board. And the board, led by, you guessed it, Marcia too, decided the solution was to build a fence to protect the community space. Except their version of protect involved fencing me in. I called the HOA office. Lynn answered, still hanging on after the last HOA debacle. Poor guy, always in the wrong place at the wrong time. "Hey, it's Wallace," I said. A long pause. "Oh. Huh? You want to tell me why there's a fence on my land?" "We believe it's on the border, and legally the gate sits on a shared access point owned by the community." "You believe wrong." "I don't make those decisions, sir. You'll need to speak to the board." "Then tell them this. Remove the fence, or I will." He went quiet. I hung up. That night, I walked the entire perimeter with a flashlight and a map. Sure enough, the trail wrapped around the north edge. But the fence? It bled a full 6 feet into my land. They'd misread the survey lines, or maybe ignored them. Either way, they'd fenced in part of my property, and then had the nerve to lock me out. But that wasn't even the best part. The gate, the one piece of the fence that controlled access, that sat squarely on a separate parcel. A parcel I didn't own, but someone else did. And guess what? They were selling it. It was just 0.3 acres. A postage stamp of dirt next to the HOA trailhead. Technically a utility easement, abandoned by the developer years ago. I found the listing buried on a zoning board newsletter. Price, $4,200. 0 cents. I offered $5,000, 0 cents, cash, no questions asked, closed in 3 days. And just like that, I owned the gate, a key, the access, the only legal entrance to their fancy new fence. I didn't say a word. Not yet. I just let them enjoy their victory, the illusion of control, the belief that they'd secured the trail. All the while, I had the deed in my safe and a duplicate key in my pocket. Because the thing about fences, they go both ways. 3 days after I bought the parcel, I changed the lock. Nothing dramatic, just a quiet swap in the early morning, padlock off, new deadbolt on. The kind you can't buy at Home Depot unless you know a guy who knows a guy who installs panic rooms. Then I posted a sign on the gate. Pre-recorded. Access only. This entrance is located on privately owned land. Trespassing will result in prosecution under state law. For permission requests, contact Ellie at rantspatrol.com. Yes, I gave Ellie her own email address. No, I don't regret it. By noon, the first HOA email came in. Subject line, urgent. Trailgate key change? It was from Glenn, of course. Hi, Wallace. We've received reports that the trailgate is no longer accessible using our community key. Can you confirm any recent changes? This has caused several issues with scheduled walking groups. Please respond respectfully. You, Glenn. I waited 2 hours. Then I replied, Hey, Glenn. The parcel containing the gate was recently acquired by a private buyer. All previous access privileges are now revoked. For usage requests, please direct all communication to Ellie. Sincerely, Wallace. I attached a photo of Ellie wearing sunglasses. No further explanation. By 3 p.m. I was receiving calls. 3 residents, 1 yoga instructor, and Marcia to herself returning from HOA retirement like some kind of villainous groundhog. She left a voicemail. This is a deliberate act of aggression. The HOA has relied on that trail for over a decade. You are legally and morally obligated to restore access immediately. I saved the voicemail in a folder labeled Justification. Then I hired a local metalworker to weld a second sign beneath the first. Access by invitation only. If you're reading this and your name starts with MARSHA, turn around. The next HOA board meeting was, by all accounts, a complete circus. Someone tried to climb the fence to reach the trail and got stuck. A kid threw a tennis ball over it and burst into tears when he couldn't retrieve it. One elderly woman shouted, I didn't move here for Cold War energy, which made no sense but sounded fantastic. A new proposal was put to vote, build a second trail access point, cutting through someone else's yard. The vote failed, unanimously. Turns out, people liked their privacy more than HOA drama. So instead, the board asked to meet with me, at my place, at my terms. We met at high noon. Me, Glenn, and 2 new board members, one with a clipboard, one with a latte. I sat in a rocking chair on my porch. Ellie laid at my feet like a retired general. Look, Glenn started, we're not here to fight. I raised an eyebrow. We understand the situation. The question is whether there's a way to resolve this peacefully. I pointed toward the gate. That land is mine. The gate is mine. The trail is mine when it crosses the fence line. We can offer compensation, Latte Guy said. How much? He looked nervous. We haven't finalized that. Try again later, I said. But if you're open to alternatives, I've got a proposal. They perked up. You can keep using the trail, but only with signed waivers, limited hours, and a community cleanup clause. Latte Guy furrowed his brow. What kind of cleanup? Goat droppings, I said. Glenn blinked. What? I'm moving the trail reroute through the goat field. No poop removal, no walking privileges. They were silent for a full 10 seconds. Then Glenn sighed. We'll discuss it with the board. The next day, I rerouted the trail. Not through the pristine slope where they'd installed their silly fence. but through Ellie's training zone, aka the pasture where my 3 goats live, poop, and generally behave like anarchists with horns. I put up cheerful signs. Community trail reopened. Watch your step, seriously. Meet the goats. Mildred, unpredictable. Thanks headbutts on Tuesdays. Cinnamon, bite shoes. By the end of the week, HOA usage of the trail dropped 93%. By the second week, the fence was removed entirely, quietly, no ceremony, no apologies. The gate, still mine, locked, and Ellie, ill proud. The fence came down on a Wednesday. No email, no official retraction, just a quiet crew in HOA polo shirts and khaki shorts, unscrewing posts, rolling up chain link, and pretending they hadn't made the biggest tactical error in suburban history. I watched from my porch, coffee in one hand, binoculars in the other, just for fun. Ellie sat next to me, head tilted, tail thumping, like she was watching live sports. When the final post clinked into the back of the trailer, I gave a little golf clap. No one looked up. Respect. The next day, Glenn emailed me, "Wallace, the board has voted to formally acknowledge your ownership of parcel 17G and has rescinded all previous actions taken regarding the trail fence. We hope this resolution helps restore a sense of peace within the community. Sincerely, detailed, OA interim coordinator for now." I sent back a one-word reply, Ellie, and attached a photo of her sitting proudly next to the locked gate with a sign I'd added, "Nothing to see here. Please enjoy the long way around." But the war wasn't over. Not yet. See, the HOA may have retreated, but the petty remained. You don't try to box in a rancher and then act like it never happened. So I did what any land-owning Texan with a grudge and a sense of humor would do. I built a key monument. It's a 6-foot-tall metal sculpture in the shape of a key, welded from old tools, scrap iron, and a discarded mailbox someone once got fined for painting blue. At the base, a plaque, "A key to your mistake," erected in honor of fences built on borrowed land. People loved it. It made the local paper. A real estate blogger featured it in a list titled 10 Pettiest Acts of Landowner Revenge that we applaud. One family even took their Christmas card photo in front of it. Marcia, too, allegedly tried to start a petition to have it removed. It got 5 signatures, all from her cats. With the trail rerouted, the clubhouse losing relevance, and HOA credibility at an all-time low, the community did what I never thought they would. They started asking me for advice. The guy they tried to fence in. One lady knocked on my door asking how to file a parcel boundary challenge for her driveway. Another invited me to speak at her son's civics class about land rights and lawn drama. Glenn floated the idea of me joining the board. I declined. I didn't need a title, I had something better. Control. The trail became more of a legend than a route. Kids called it the Goat Gauntlet. Someone posted Yelp reviews of it. Peaceful if you avoid eye contact with tank. Cinnamon bit my flip-flop. 5 stars. The poop adds character. I eventually added a shoe cleaning station near the exit. Just a hose, a brush, and a laminated sign that said, Ellie got her own mini fence, not to keep her in, but to keep tourists from interrupting her naps. Someone sent her a sheriff badge. We mounted it above her bed. Every time she trotted past that gate, with her tail up and ears alert, I remembered the day they tried to trap us. And how it backfired beautifully. They put up a fence to control what they didn't own. I bought the key and reminded them, I own more than land. I own the last word. By spring, the HOA had gone full ghost town. Oh, the houses were still there. Same beige paint job, same solar lights lining driveways like sad little landing strips. But the spirit? Gone. You could feel it. In the way the newsletters stopped arriving. In the silence from the once chatty board. In the way neighbors stopped whispering and started waving again. It was glorious. The trail, once the HOA's crown jewel, had become the neighborhood punchline. And the gate, oh, the gate, stood like a relic of past ambition, locked, untouched, and covered in stickers from local visitors who'd made the pilgrimage. My favorite one said, "Keep facing stupid," with a little cartoon goat head ramming a clipboard. I left it up. Ellie, meanwhile, had developed a routine. Every morning at 7:30 sharp, she'd trot down the ranch trail, loop past the gate, and pause at the Key monument. Not for any reason, not for drama, just because it was hers now. She knew it. The goats knew it. The neighbors especially knew it. And speaking of neighbors, something unexpected started happening. People began thanking me, not just for the trail, not just for standing up to HOA overreach, but for reminding them what the neighborhood used to be. Before the fines, the citations, the fear of leaving your garbage bins out 5 minutes too long. "Feels like we can breathe again," one woman told me. Another man brought over a bottle of whiskey and said, "You gave us our damn dignity back." I poured him a glass. We toasted silently. No speeches needed. That's when I got the idea for the event. Something small at first. Maybe a cookout. But then Glenn heard about it. Then Steve offered to bring his smoker. Then someone else said they could get a band. Next thing I knew, we were planning a full-blown neighborhood party, hosted on the very land the HOA tried to fence off. We called it the Keyholder's Cookout. Entry fee? One funny HOA story or a leashless dog. About. The turnout was unreal. Over 100 residents showed up. People brought food, lawn chairs, and enough side dishes to stock a food truck. Kids played tag around the monument. The goats got hand-fed snacks. One guy made "I Got Fence" t-shirts with Ellie's face on them. At sunset, I took the stage, which was really just a hay bale with a mic stand, and raised a glass. "Here's to fences," I said, because sometimes they don't keep you in. They show you who's on your side when you break through them. Cheers erupted. Ellie barked twice. Someone lit a sparkler. It was perfect. Later that night, I found a note taped to the monument. No name, no threats, just one sentence. "We should have asked first." I smiled. Not because they were sorry, but because, finally, they understood. That land, those trails, that silly gate with the lock, they were never about property lines. They were about respect. And when they tried to claim what they didn't earn, I didn't just protect my land. I made it matter. Summer arrived like a warm exhale. Long days, slow evenings, the smell of mesquite in the air and lawn chairs permanently anchored in front yards. The Keyholder's Cookout had turned into a monthly thing, not official, not organized, just a loosely planned gathering of people who were finally acting like a neighborhood again. No permits, no sign-ups, no HOA, just freedom, dogs, and fire-grilled meat. Ellie had become a celebrity in her own right. People would honk and wave as she strutted along the trail. Kids brought her homemade treats. One family even gave her a laminated honorary trail warden badge. I mounted it above her water bowl, right next to her original leash, the one they tried to ban with that fence. The gate, still locked, untouched. By now, it had grown moss around the edges. Tourists, yes, actual suburban tourists, came by to take photos next to it. Someone made an Instagram page at that gate. 10K followers and counting, and the HOA completely dissolved. After the last failed attempt at rebranding and 3 more board members quitting in protest, the remaining leadership quietly filed the paperwork to terminate the HOA charter. Glenn sent me the official notice. The subject line just said, "You win." Attached was a PDF titled Community Governance Transfer Agreement. It was only 3 pages long. Simple, direct, no ceremony. At the bottom, a note in Glenn's handwriting. "Thanks for reminding us who the land really belongs to. Ellie still runs this place." I printed the PDF, framed it, hung it in the community clubhouse, now fully operated by volunteers, families, and 2 retired teachers who had renamed it the Goat and Gate Community Hall. Yes, the goats got billing. They earned it. I kept walking the ranch. Every morning, coffee in hand, Ellie by my side, passing the trail that used to be contested and now belonged to everyone who respected it. And every time we passed the gate, I gave a little salute, not because it mattered anymore, but because it served its purpose. That fence, it wasn't a trap, it was a test, and they failed. But I bought the key. I kept the land, and I reminded everyone who tried to control the uncontrollable. You can't fence in what was never yours to begin with. Not land, not legacy, and definitely not a ranch dog with her own email address.